Testing, testing. Hello, hello. Witty observations from Tim.
So, as most people know, we release the podcast in all the usual podcast places, but we also put a video on YouTube, and that video's normally got bits of video and pictures that come up on screen at relevant times. Today's episode, I think, is a very good episode to be watching on the video on YouTube because there's lots of images, there's going to be lots of video, there's lots of things that I think people are going to want to look at. And I will link to them in the notes in the usual place. This is a podcast. You don't have to see them. Everything has been made as a podcast to be listened to only. But if there was ever an episode that I think you're also going to want to see the video, this might be the one because there's all sorts of things that are pretty interesting to look at as well. So there's just my warning at the start. If you're listening on audio, that's fine too. We will paint pictures with our words.
We will. We are audio artists.
We are.
Trademark. Audio artists.
Impressionists, sort of, I think we would be. You'd be maybe more cubist.
I think surrealist is actually more of my palette produce. My palettes produce, isn't that lovely? Yeah. Lovely alliteration going on here
I'm
today.
Definitely more the finger painting crayon genre, but whatever it takes.
Yeah. Now you're working your way up to texter though, so that's
good. I'm going to get my pen license at some point. Yeah.
At some point.
Okay, bit of a parish notice. Last episode, we talked about Rolex-style advertisements, this genre of advertising that Rolex do, where they do these grandiose, pompous, scripted advertisements.
This is a world where an ardent heart and a sharp mind can meet and reach a perfect balance.
And we threw down a challenge for people to submit their own advertising letters. And we've had quite a few submissions. I'm going to play some of them today, but I'm going to save it for later. I'm saving some for our Storyblocks ad. And there's a very special reason for that. You want to hang around for that. And then maybe some more at the end of the show as well.
People, as it turns out, are quite inspired by lettuce. They're quite passionate and have found it quite easy. So to give it the Rolex treatment.
I think we inspired them, but you know.
Well, that's where they found us quite inspiring. I'm shocked people could afford to find a lettuce to use for their project.
How is the price of lettuce in Australia at the moment? Has it come back down, or is it still kind of Bitcoin levels?
I have no idea. The stock market's closed at the moment, so we can't check. But I think it closed on Friday. I didn't see the market report on Friday afternoon. But
lettuce futures. Now, speaking of large amounts of money, I received a letter in the post the other day from a shipping company saying, we've got something for you from overseas, but we can't release it to you until you pay the customs duty. I do get these letters sometimes, so I'm used to it. This was a very high amount of money, though. I was thinking, how much can this thing be worth that I'm being sent, that I have to pay so much customs? I haven't bought anything expensive from overseas, and they don't tell you what it is, which is a real pain, because you might not want to pay the customs. You might not want the thing. It just said you've got an item. Yeah, and I'm like, oh, gosh, what am I going to do?
Oh, right, yeah.
I was curious enough to pay the money.
I didn't know you had to do that. That's really strange.
Yeah, well, turns out the package was from a certain T. Hine. So in future, Tim, can you put lower values on your parcels when you send them? Don't be dishonest, but don't highball it. Think what's the lowest someone would pay for this thing and put that as the value.
When I was putting a guesstimate price on the package, in my mind I was thinking, okay, it's insured. So if this thing gets lost, what do I get back? So in my mind, that's what I'm thinking. But I had no idea you had to pay some sort of...
Yeah, well, thanks for that. Anyway, I got this package from T. Hine, and it was very tantalising. I could now read what Tim had written on the customs form that was attached to the front of the package, and it said oil painting. And I'm like, oil painting? What's Tim doing sending me an oil painting? So sure enough, I unwrapped it. I'll unwrap it again now. I've got it here in front of me. Covered in bubble wrap. Very nicely packaged for you. I refuse to believe you did this packaging.
No. I stood there in the post office and bought about 400 packages or rolls of bubble wrap and popped a few just for fun, for personal pleasure before I put the oil painting in it.
Do you want me to pop a few now for you? What a good podcast that would be. Popping bubble wrap. Here we go.
Oh, yeah.
You getting those?
Oh, I can't even hear it.
I think there might be like a high pass filter or something cutting the pops, but they are there. Hang on, I'll go further away.
Oh.
No?
It looks very satisfying, though. I can imagine the feeling.
Anyway, I unwrapped this oil painting. It will be on the screen for people to have a look at. Gorgeous frame, very tasteful frame, wooden frame with a bit of gold inlay.
Thank you.
And the oil painting is of, people may recall, my tennis shot of the century a while back. Well, when I played that shot, I was so keen for Tim to know about it. I drew a bit of a sketch, a diagram, a schematic on the back of an envelope, and I sent it to Tim as an image. And Tim has had that image rather too faithfully reproduced as an oil painting. It hasn't been glamorized or improved or, it hasn't been used as a concept for a beautiful piece of art. It has been pretty much stroke for stroke being reproduced as an oil painting, except in green with white lines, so the colour palette has been made more tennis-like. It's an oil painting showing my tennis shot of the century. Tim, what has happened here? Who has done this?
Well, I was inspired by your drawing. Your typical lovely Brady penmanship. It's a wonderful drawing with, names and diagrams and bits and pieces to try and explain what's going on. And I really enjoyed how passionate you were about it. And it worked. It was logical and flowed. You were so passionate about this particular tennis shot, which has become quite a legendary tennis shot, I understand, around your community.
Yes.
We've talked about that before.
Yes.
That I thought it had to be given the immortal treatment that so many other great sporting icons are given, and that is turned into an oil painting. So I imagine this is the sort of tennis shot that will end up, if given the right treatment, would be hung at Wimbledon, at the tennis club. The sort of thing where there are images of Sir Donald Bradman in the Lord's long room and so forth.
In the Wimbledon sort of gallery of champions or something, or above the lockers where the players are preparing for the Wimbledon final, to inspire them.
That's right.
Yeah.
Absolutely, yeah. So it took a while to pick out that lovely green, that beautiful sort of ye olde green that it's sort of close to, it's not quite British racing green, but it's in that same genre to give it the establishment and quality treatment. And so I actually had it commissioned. I contacted a fantastic painter called Leanne Malcolm. I told her I'd give her a shout out if she lowered herself to doing a task like this.
Right.
Leanne Malcolm, she did a fantastic job. She had a few goes at it and consulted a little bit and finally was able to capture the true beauty of your stroke play in this image.
In her strokes.
And then I had it framed at my usual frame.
Nice.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, her brush strokes was able to capture your tennis strokes, yes.
It's a lovely piece. What does she normally paint? What does she normally specialise in? Or does she specialise in tennis shot diagrams?
I was able to find just the right person. No, she paints people on commission. She's phenomenal. She does other landscapes, horses, and art as well. But I've seen her do people, and she's quite phenomenal at that.
Do you think if I sent her a picture of me out on court in all my gear playing the shot, she might do that as well?
I think having worked on the diagram and really got inside that, I think she'd be able to get the angles just right and the shadows just right. She'd be able to visualize. In fact, she probably already is just visualizing you in your cross court. And what's it called when you not backstroke?
It was a forehand I played.
Forehand, very good. Yes. As you can tell, I'm well across the tennis.
Yeah. Also, if you'd seen my backhand, you'd know it wouldn't have been. I definitely haven't played a shot of the century in my backhand. That's for sure. What do you think the people at Wimbledon would do if I sent this to them unsolicited?
Oh, I think they'd probably call their insurance company immediately and have it insured. And then that's the first thing they'd do.
I hope they wouldn't get you to evaluate it. That's for sure. Cost him an arm and a leg.
It would be a wonderful idea to see. What's the most prestigious place you could get that hung? Where is the most prestigious place, apart from the Harron household?
Well, funny you should say that, Tim, because I actually took the piece along to the tennis club to show Ian, who runs the bar, the victim of my forehand. He was there on court. He saw it. We've heard from him before. Well, I took your oil painting along to show him, and here's what happened. All right, Tim. That's my car door shutting. I've come to the tennis club. I've just had 3 sets with Ian, doubles, Dave and Mike as well. I've got the package now. I'm walking into the club. We're just having post-tennis tea. All right, Ian. Come on over here, Ian. I want to show you this. It's still talked about. So my friend Tim, my podcast co-host, had this commissioned for us. Do you want to unveil it and tell us what you'll think?
Right, okay, so it's some sort of a painting or whatever.
It's an oil painting.
Oil painting, right, fine. I'm guessing what this is.
It's upside down.
Yeah. It makes the same difference. Yeah, brilliant. I know what this is. This is Brady's shot, isn't it? This is your winning shot.
Shot of the century.
It's unbelievable, look. I got the names of people, brilliant, yeah.
Yeah.
What's that say? Oh, Denise, yeah.
That's your wife.
That's my wife.
Yes.
That's my wife playing, yeah.
There's you.
Ooh, yep.
There's Paula.
Brilliant.
There's the other court.
Oh, other game,
Yeah.
Brady.
So when my friend Tim said, "Go on, show me the shot," I sent him this back of an envelope diagram.
Is this your diagram, is it?
Yeah.
Oh, fantastic.
And he said it turned into an oil painting.
Oh, good grief.
I've got an idea. Come with me.
Put that up behind the bar, can't we?
Oh, behind the bar.
Or next to the bar, maybe?
Yeah, I've got a better idea.
In the
I'm bringing Ian into the
jets now.
men's toilets. What about just there on the wall?
Could do it. Could work, couldn't it? No one has a clue what it's all about, but brilliant. Oh, fantastic. That was Tim, was it?
That was Tim.
Fair play, Tim. Fair play.
All right.
I expect a t-shirt now.
T-shirt. Ian has called for a T-shirt.
No, I'm just joking.
No, it's happening. So Ian has offered to hang it in the bar, although I think that was a bit of a hollow promise. The toilets is a possibility, but I am also intrigued. It was he who suggested a T-shirt.
Oh, I think a T-shirt's a fantastic idea. Well, you see a lot of those Mona Lisa T-shirts going around. People adapt the motif for all
Yes.
sorts of stuff. So
Right.
there's precedent for it. Absolutely. Actually, your tennis club was in the back of my mind when it was happening. I was thinking, I'm pretty sure this will end up at the tennis club. And I think that's something beautiful because it's the sort of thing that promises a story. You know, it provokes a story. And tennis clubs are all about telling. Well, sporting clubs are all about stories.
And the story is, oh, what's that shot? Oh, there was this guy that used to play here called Brady who was pretty average, who played just a pretty average shot, and he had it turned into an oil painting.
Then people go, oh, yeah, I've heard that story. Brady told me that story.
Yeah. In terms of the T-shirt, 5 words, link in the show notes.
Oh, there we go. You're right on it.
I don't know. Part of me thinks, yeah, hang it in the tennis club because that's a banker. I think I could get it hung there for at least a while. But I'm so tempted to send it to Wimbledon to see how they react. What's it called? The All England Lawn Tennis Club or something? Like there's some official up, you know.
Yeah.
Because of the classy framing you've given it, it looks like something they can't just throw away.
No, that's right. They surely at least would return it. But you could, if you put a letter with it and explained the circumstance in your local tennis club and you hit a shot, it was such a fantastic shot. And they would have to admit that's a good shot. Like if that shot happened in the middle of a Wimbledon final, they go, fair play. That's a great shot.
I think they'd look at the diagram and say, I don't think this was physically possible.
Is it too good a shot? You should have sent me a lesser shot that I could.
I wanted to be honest. We'll keep you up to date with what happens with this oil painting. But for now, thank you, Tim. Thank you to the artist. What was it?
Leanne Malcolm. Yeah, and it's spelled like Lee, L-E-E, then A-N-N, Leanne. If you're in Adelaide and you need a tennis shot painted, she is definitely the person, Leanne Malcolm.
I'm all for driving up the value of Leanne Malcolm paintings because it means the value of my tennis shot painting goes up. She didn't sign it, though. She didn't sign it, but I guess she couldn't sign it because technically it was my artwork. Both with both the shot and the diagram.
In the context of the diagram, if she had signed it, you know, in the bottom left corner like a regular artist, it would have been confusing. Like, what is there another tennis game going on here? There's Denise and there's Ian, and then what? Who's this Lee and Leanne down here? That doesn't make any sense.
There's a lot going on. There's a lot going on. All right. Thank you very much for that lovely gift. Tim, I've had an idea for a podcast. This is an idea I've been sitting on for a while. Something happened this week that means now is the time to talk about it. And I haven't really got like a really crystallized idea for the format. It's a very loose idea, and I'm sure it's something that exists already, but it's just something I would like to do. And I think I could do it well given time and the resources. And that is, I would like to make a hot air balloon podcast. Because I love hot air balloons. I live near Bristol, which is famous for hot air ballooning. So I see them a lot in the summer. I've made a lot of videos about hot air balloons in the past in my normal work with a hot air balloonist who was called Janet Folks. So I know a lot about hot air balloons now, thanks to her. But this week, I actually went on a hot air balloon flight and I took all my recording gear with me. And it just made me more sure that a hot air balloon podcast would be fantastic. Not only is hot air ballooning kind of glamorous and fun and adventurous. It's got really interesting sound because you've got the burners. When you're in the air, it's quite interesting. It can be very quiet and peaceful, which is good for podcasting, punctuated by interesting sounds. Hot air balloonists themselves are normally very interesting. People who are going on hot air balloon flights, like as joy flights, are normally doing it for an interesting reason. They have an interesting story to tell. And I think if you were embedded with a hot air balloon company or a hot air balloonist, or you just traveled the world making hot air balloon podcasts, it would be riveting.
Riveting's a strong word for what is largely a visual and silent activity for a podcast.
Yeah, but I think it could be kind of hypnotic listening to them, listening to the flights. They're so peaceful and people are in an interesting state of mind on a hot air balloon flight. And if you're just like going to sleep or, on a long walk, I think listening to a hot air balloon flight, you're right. The best thing about a hot air balloon flight is the views, and we are lacking that in a podcast format. But I still think I could land it. I still think I could do it.
This is one of those immersive sort of experiences, that idea, like you're inside it and you're, okay, now we're rising up and...
You're right.
And it looks really beautiful. Yeah. And
have you been on a hot air balloon?
No, never have.
Would you like to?
Yes, I would. I would very much like to. I don't know why I've never done it. Would very much like to. There was a fair bit around Melbourne. I don't know why Melbourne, but I never see them around Adelaide. And I would have thought Adelaide was a better sort of more reliable kind of open-aired city for it.
I don't know the answer to this, but I suspect I know the answer. And that is, I think Adelaide might be too hot. Because if it's very, very hot, it's not good for hot air ballooning because the hot ground causes turbulent air and eddies to come up off the ground, and it's hard to take off.
Right.
I think Adelaide might be too hot in the summer when it's still, and then when it cools down, the weather's a bit inclement.
Yeah, right.
And again, not so good. You can go hot air ballooning in the Barossa Valley and stuff, so it does exist in South Australia and Adelaide. But
it's not illegal in South Australia. It's not forbidden.
No. Yeah.
If it was illegal, it's very hard to do secretly, isn't it? It's not the sort of thing where you can say, we did a little bit of hot air ballooning in the backyard, but no one saw. It's a reasonably transparent activity.
They are not easily concealed objects, hot air balloons. Do you know much about it? Do you have much interest in it? Is it something that you lie in bed thinking about at night?
That's a very good idea. What do I know about it? I know I don't lay in bed thinking about it at night. I think my first exposure to it was an episode of Grizzly Adams, the TV show, where like a balloonist suddenly just falls in on Grizzly Adams. And it's just like, wow, that's not expected.
I think that's the most beautiful sight I've ever seen. How can you stand there so calm when that thing's a-floating around up there, maybe going to destroy it?
I feel like that was the Jump the Shark episode of Grizzly Adams, where suddenly a man by himself in the wilderness was sort of with a hot air balloonist. Like the week after that, a spacecraft lands in Montana or wherever he is. The thing that stays with me about it is that there was something in the episode whereby it was counterintuitive that you have to throw off weight in order to go down instead of being heavy. They were like, we have to go down, and they were throwing off weight to go down, like sandbags or something. And I remember thinking, that doesn't make any sense, but there's obviously some sort of scientific reason to that. Or am I just remembering that wrong?
I think you might be misremembering. You normally throw off weight to go up.
Well, that's what I would have thought, yeah.
With hot air ballooning, where you're just using hot air, you normally just use the burner to heat up the air in the balloon, which makes you go up.
Yep.
And then there's a hole in the top of the balloon. And if you pull a rope, it lets some of the hot air out, and that lowers the balloon, and then you again to go up. So in a hot air balloon, you don't normally need to regulate your weight. But there's another kind of ballooning where you use hydrogen to fly with, and that's sealed, a sealed balloon with hydrogen in it.
Oh, yeah.
But with those balloons, basically, you throw weight off to go up, and then you can let hydrogen out, but you can't refill the hydrogen, so you do throw weight off board. Normally, you have buckets of sand, and you just scoop out handfuls of sand on those balloons to make them go up or down. I have a video on this that I will post for people to have a look at.
Okay.
But that's a different kind of hot air balloon.
I am going to take a wild guess here at this point and say that the hydrogen ballooning is illegal, surely. That's no longer permissible.
It is legal. There's a famous race they do across Europe called the Gordon Bennett race, where people race for days to see who can fly the furthest across Europe. It is legal to use hydrogen, but it is very dangerous. You have to be very careful because it's very explosive.
So helium isn't flammable? Is it just that hydrogen is more flammable? Is that why the preferences for... Is it helium these days they use? Am I right there?
I seem to recall they were using hydrogen. But you're right. Why wouldn't they use helium? Helium's very expensive.
There's no gas at all, is there? In the one that you were on today, is it just hot air?
It's just air. So what you do is they lie the balloon down on the ground.
Yep.
They blow air with huge fans in it just to puff it a little bit. And once it's a bit puffy lying on the ground, they burn fire, which heats up the air. And hot air is obviously more buoyant. And that makes the balloon stand up, rise to attention.
Yep.
And then fill it with more and more and just keep burning until the air in it is so hot that the thing just lifts off the ground. So it's not sealed. That balloon, a hot air balloon, is not sealed. It's got a big opening at the bottom where the burner is, and a hole at the top that you can open and close to let hot air in and out.
But like party balloons we use helium.
Yes,
those
they would
balloons
use helium.
that you have at festivals and they float off. They're helium.
Yes.
Yeah. The only thing I know about the hydrogen one is the Hindenburg was full of hydrogen,
Yes.
wasn't it? And it blew up or something.
And that was
well, not or something. It blew up. It definitely blew up.
was very bad PR for hydrogen. You could no longer use them for passenger airships after that.
So I think we've pretty much reached the outer limits of my knowledge of ballooning. Apart from, it's the sort of thing that millionaires tend to do.
Yeah.
The millionaire or billionaire balloonists. It's like there's always some sort of a Guinness World Record they're trying to beat by taking a hot air balloon across Antarctica or something like that. I don't know why they become obsessed after they earn their second billion on that.
Richard Branson famously loves hot air balloons and was always going for world records and stuff like that. In fact, the day I flew, there was a Virgin hot air balloon a couple of balloons away from me. Anyway, speaking of the day I flew, I'm going to share some audio with you. A spoiler, I will point out something that happens. Actually, no, I won't. I'll play it.
Do you fall out of the balloon?
No. So
that's the only spoiler. If the balloon can't blow up because it's just normal hot air and you didn't fall out of the basket, what else is there that could have happened that's going to be like a massive event?
Well, let's find out. Let's find out what the special event was that happened on my flight. Here it is. Here's the flight. I was flying with a company, by the way, called... What are they called? Bailey Balloons, which was the company I flew with. Legendary balloon company here in Bristol. Here we go. Here's the adventure. And of course, there will be lots of video and pictures with this as well. I mentioned at the start, there are a few things you'd want to see. I had cameras on the balloon. I took loads of photos. So if you want to enjoy the visuals of this flight as well, you can do so. Check out the link in the notes. Hey there. I'm at a place called Ashton Court, which is a big stately home with huge fields just outside Bristol. Well, I guess it's in Bristol, actually. I can see the Bristol city centre from this hillside I'm on. And at the moment, there are a whole bunch of hot air balloons being prepared on what could not be a more perfect, hot, still evening. And I reckon 1, 2, 3, 4, at least 5 I can see being prepared. They're sending like normal balloons up into the air at the moment so they can test which direction the wind's going. And I'm looking at the basket that I'm going to be going in. I've already spoken to one of the guys in charge, asked him if I can put some cameras on the balloon. I can see some of my fellow passengers because it's a really big basket. I reckon it must hold 10 people, maybe 12. I can see my fellow passengers. My balloon's being put out at the moment. They're rolling it out the back of a trailer. Here's the sound. So now the balloon's been rolled out and it's like a big long cigar at the moment. It's all tightly bound. In fact, let me take a picture with my phone so you can see this if you're watching the YouTube version. There we go, taking some pictures. And what they're going to do now is they're going to unfurl it so it's spread out on the grass, and then they're going to switch on a huge fan to blow air into it to kind of puff it up a little bit. And when it's puffed up, then they'll use the burners to heat up all the air and blow all the hot air into it and make it a hot air balloon. Pretty exciting stuff. The sky could not be more blue. It feels very perfect. I've been to so many hot air balloon things in my time as a filmmaker that have been called off because of weather, but I'm feeling pretty confident today. So now I'm just going to wait for them to fire up those fans and inflate this baby.
Rather good.
So that's the sound of the balloon being unfurled. Checking there's no holes in it. I feel like I should be helping you rather than watching you, but it's a big dark blue balloon all our fellow passengers now are coming along and helping pull it out. It's like Moses parting the Red Sea now as the balloon spreads right out. Ready for inflation. That's the sound of the fan blowing air into the balloon. It's all kicking off now, it's all kicking off. There are burners burning, there's fire everywhere, there's fans blowing. You'd think this was a loud exercise, but it will quieten down soon. I'm inside the balloon now, I've never done this before. Wow, I'm going to take a picture. Amazing. It's amazing, I've never done this before. I'll get there. It's slippery, sucker. I got it. Out the way, out the way. Alright, we've moved from the fans to the fire now and they're burning hot air up into the balloon. It's expanding above me, it's amazing. So as it goes up, the basket is tipping into an upright position. Alright, I'm going to try and get into the balloon now. Here we go. Sorry. We're in. I'm in the balloon. All clear. What a super night to go for. We are very high, very quickly. It doesn't take long. It doesn't take long, does it? Wow. 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 We're up. Everyone's got the cameras out. We are very, very high, very quickly. You can see everyone is just ants where we took off, including my wife and son. It was a really weird feeling. You can see all the other balloons up here.
So is there any steering?
No, just different layers of winds at different heights. That's all we've got.
Wow. I don't really know what to say. It's crazy. I'll get my camera.
Charlie Bravo, Mike Yankee, this is the radar pass message.
Yeah, sorry, so Charlie Mike, got Charlie Mike.
So we're fourth in a line of balloons, crossing centre of Bristol basically.
Right, if you have a look, we have a GoPro hanging from the balloon. I'm going to take some shots while we're going along. Just going to do one now. We've got the bridge behind us. People closest to the camera, this row here. Can you put your arms over the basket, just lean over, because you've got people behind you. And then one out of Bath. If you look, there's a balloon way off in the distance outside of Bath.
Goes without saying, amazing views of Bristol, Suspension Bridge, SS Great Britain. All the famous buildings from a very different view. Could we take a picture of the two of you? I'm okay, thanks. Oh, go on. Yeah, go on. Thank you very much. All been helping each other out with our photos and selfies up here. Bit of mutual photo taking. Constant fear of dropping something over the edge. We're over some proper British Bristol suburbia at the moment. Rows of houses all the same. The only sound is really the squawking radio of the pilot, so he can keep in touch with the other balloons and air traffic control. Looks like there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 other balloons up here at the moment.
Do you know what? I get asked that question almost every flight.
Yeah.
At least
All the different balloons are all going at different heights to catch different air currents and go in different directions, so they're all sort of bobbing up and down.
We're heading towards Temple Meads now, so we're going to slowly go along out that way through Bristol.
So our pilot Steve's talking to the van that's following us, that's going to pick us up when we eventually land in a field or a farm or wherever we end up. I've heard a lot of balloon stories about where balloons have landed and the problems they had with farmers and the likes. Some of the balloons are way below us, other ones are about our level. We're doing a bit of a low skim now. You can hear everyone in their backyards playing, and before the flight my wife said that's the thing she really notices about hot air balloons is you can hear everything below really well. You can pick out children playing, dogs barking. I don't know if you hear it on my microphone, but we're low enough now that people are waving to us and we're waving back down to them. It's actually a bit voyeuristic seeing into people's backyards like this, all their swimming pools and lounge furniture. And I just got a text from my wife. I still have the car keys in my pocket, and all my family and friends and baby are left where we took off. So, oh dear.
Okay, we've watched several other balloons land and pancake into fields. Pretty much all of them are tipping over their baskets, and we're next, so we're going to get into our brace position zone. Could get messy. Skimming over the trees and houses as we come into land. It's quite tight. Going to aim for a field in the distance to land in. Alright, landing positions. Wish us luck. Here we go, here we go. Here we go, here we go. Oh, whoa, whoa. All right. And, we're bouncing along the field. Oh, we're... This is the exciting bit. Oh, we're still upright.
We're still upright, yeah.
And, pilot's pulling in the balloon.
Right, stay holding on there, guys.
All right, he's bringing the balloon down.
When he brings the balloon down, probably will be just like...
It's flopping into the field. It'll probably tip us over as it flops into the field.
Perfect. Right, stand up, guys, stand up.
Oh, what a landing. What a landing. We're still upright.
There we go.
Well done. Big applause.
You're now called survivors.
And down it comes. Some dogs have run into the field to meet us. Obviously these dogs belong to the local farmer. Love to see the balloon land in their field. Come on, doggies. Oh, they're... So the pilot's now talking to the landowner, keeping things sweet. Hey, doggy. So I reckon we've only been on the ground 5 minutes, 10 minutes, and the vans that were following us, the four-wheel drives, have arrived to help pack up the balloon and get the job done. My big lesson from that balloon flight is don't leave your family on the ground with the car keys are in your pocket and you're going in a hot air balloon. But other than that, it was good. It was great.
About the same, do you reckon?
Nice. No, it was nicer.
Put a meter on there.
There
you go.
Thank you.
Brady.
Thank you very much. Post-flight drink.
All right. There you go, guys.
So there we go, there's my flight, and of course there's my mishap. I took the car keys with me. My dad, wife's friend, and baby son had come along to Ashton Court to see me off, and then, towards the end of the flight, when we got low enough, I got a text message and it said, "Where are the keys?" Felt my pocket.
Oh, so you were in a different location. It's not like that you went up in the air, floated around, came back down to the same spot.
No, because hot air balloon flights usually go with the prevailing wind. So the prevailing wind took us... You can't steer a hot air balloon other than using the wind in clever ways. So basically, we started on one side of Bristol and flew across the whole city and landed on the other side of the city. So I was a long way from where they were. Don't worry.
Oh.
My wife is very resourceful, and with the help of a friend, she managed to get picked up and was able to get home. And I was then driven back to the balloon site, picked up my car, and went home sheepishly.
So she didn't jump on a nearby balloon and chase off after
No,
you?
we were being chased because you get chased by a chase vehicle that comes, because when you land, you've got to pack up the balloon. So we were chased by chase vehicles, but she wasn't in those chase vehicles. So no, they had to find their own way home because Brady took the keys with him. It all happens so fast, hot air balloon flights, though. You spend hours waiting around for them to inflate and go, but when they finally inflate it, they're like, quick, get on, we're going. And you kind of panically, it's all like a last-minute panic, and you jump on and just completely forgot.
There are a lot of wows as you were taking off. Oh, before you took off, I love the idea. Of course, they let off helium balloons then, just normal balloons, just to see which way they go. Is that right? Like at a birthday party?
Yeah, basically, they let a few party balloons go just to watch how they wiggle as they get higher and higher to see what the local air conditions are like. Yeah.
I like that. That could be a new aphorism. Instead of, the canary down the mine shaft, it could be the party balloon in the air, like just testing the conditions for when the big ones come up.
Yeah.
I like that. But then there was a lot of wows. Wow. And it's
that's
fast.
That's the Brady vocabulary. I'll tell you something you'll find interesting because you are mushy and emotional. And so you will like this. You will like this. Let's forget about the keys debacle, right? When it took off, I was watching my wife holding my newborn baby. And the balloon does take off faster than you think. So you go flying up into the air and everything you're looking at gets small very quickly. And watching my wife and my tiny little baby, who's already tiny, get tinier and tinier and further away from me very rapidly, very viscerally, as I'm like leaving the earth and watching them shrink down to the size of little tiny ants, had a massive emotional effect on me. It felt really like uncomfortable, like a rubber band was being pulled to breaking point and then snapped. It was really hard to watch, and I was like, "Oh my god, I can't watch this." It was hard.
Well, this is probably the furthest you've been away from them. Is that right?
Well, no, I've been away on like day trips and stuff, but you don't see that. You say goodbye and go out the front door and drive away. But here you were actually seeing them get smaller and smaller, like you were leaving the planet. It was, and they looked so small and vulnerable. Like, it was really hard to watch. It was really a really difficult feeling.
Although, of course, they're perfectly safe. You're the vulnerable one. You're the one who's literally flying on hot air.
Also, they thought until they realised Dad had left them in the middle of a field on a hot day with no car keys and house keys.
Oh, that's right. Yes. Was it just like, I imagine it's just like one of those Google Earth zoom outs. Is that right? You just sort of, whoa.
It is like that. At first you feel like you're gently lifting, and then it's like, you're going, because he's pulling the burner, filling the balloon with hotter and hotter air. Up you go. And within 30 seconds to a minute, you can't make them out.
Knowing me, I would have got really teary, well, like you too, and then leaving
I didn't get teary. Not teary. Yeah.
Oh, right, okay, sorry.
Let's not get carried away.
I was going to say, and then my glasses would slip off with the tears.
If someone was going to drop something out of the balloon, it would be you. We did ask the pilot, has anyone ever dropped anything out of a balloon? He's been doing it for years. He said, no, not that I know of. Oh. It is a constant fear, dropping something out of the balloon as you lean over with your phone. Anyway, Hot Air Balloon Podcast. There's my idea.
What's the name of your podcast?
Well, I mean, because it's talking, it could be, a load of hot air.
Yeah. I was about to make the same comment about our podcast. I did enjoy, you were right, I did enjoy listening to the journey. It has those peaceful moments. Could be a good going to sleep podcast, which I know a lot of people use podcasts for. And that's not an insult to you, that's a compliment.
If you were making it a going to sleep podcast, you'd have to really turn down the volume when they pull the burner. Because while it's very peaceful in a hot air balloon, everything is punctuated by those sudden burns. Every sentence is like, hey Tim, how are you today? I've got something really important to tell you.
It's like a plane flying overhead, is it? Yeah. The thing I was most impressed about in your snippet of the podcast was that you managed to play the synthesizer through the entire journey.
Thank you.
You thought to take that on board. You forgot the car keys, but remembered the synthesizer.
Music in the podcast there was courtesy of my good friend Alan Stewart. The thing that is amazing is that there are 12 people plus the pilot in the basket. You think of like hot air balloons being like the Yoke Play ad where it's just like, one crazy Frenchman flying around France dropping yogurt on people, but we were crammed in there. There's a lot of us.
The Yoplait. That's right.
Yoplait is French for yogurt. There were famous yogurt ads in Australia that featured French cliches and a man in a hot air balloon. Yeah.
Oh, Google it, people. Lovely.
Yeah. Let me show you this, actually. Let me show you this picture.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that's beautiful. Oh, okay. So that's not taken from another balloon to you guys.
That's a rope dangling from the top of the balloon itself. And that's me on the far right in the corner there, in the blue.
Wow. This is a bit like Gilligan's Island, like a 3-hour tour. You've headed off with these people. Anything went wrong, you're going to spend years with these people. You know what I mean? Like random strangers and stuff. That's awesome.
Yeah. Anyway, enough of that. Let's talk about today's sponsor, Storyblocks.
Oh, fantastic.
I'm so excited. Hang around, people. I'm so excited about what we've done for today's Storyblocks promo. But first of all, for those not familiar with Storyblocks, you want to go to storyblocks.com/unmade to check out their demand-driven library of royalty-free 4K and HD footage, After Effects, and Premiere Pro templates, music, sound effects, images, anything you could need for things you're creating is going to be in this incredible library at Storyblocks, which for one very, very reasonable fee, you can download an unlimited amount and use it all in all your creations, your videos, your podcasts, your newsletters, and things like that. They've got a subscription that will fit any budget, including their unlimited all-access plan, which is the one that I'm enjoying at the moment. Go to storyblocks.com/unmade. This is an essential tool in the creator's toolkit, as far as I'm concerned. And today, I'm going to show you a shining example of how it can be used.
Right. Well, that was a fantastic speech, by the way. Well done. That was really impressive.
Thank you.
Yes, you covered all the bases there.
I was reading it, but I was like making little changes on the fly as well. You know, freestyling at the same time, kind of like Eminem at the end of 8 Mile.
Nice work. Only a true orator can do that.
Yeah. But anyway, I mentioned at the start of the show that we had last week set a challenge to our viewers to create a Rolex-inspired advertisement promoting lettuce. So to use all that grandiose language and that sort of pompous genre that Rolex use in their ads, but instead of promoting watches, to promote just your average garden lettuce. And we've been sent a few. And I'm going to play one that was sent in by someone on Reddit called Absashatatungan. They sent in an excellent Rolex ad. I'm going to play it, and it's going to be fun to listen to if you're just listening to this as a podcast. But I then went into my Storyblocks account and looked through all the lettuce footage, and they have a lot of lettuce footage on Storyblocks. And I picked all the best ones and the ones that fit in with the script, and I've created a Rolex-style ad using the audio from Absashatatungan and Storyblocks footage. And if you want to watch it now, you are in for a treat. And this is an example of the power of Storyblocks. I went from just a piece of audio to creating this visual masterpiece. Cue the ad.
This is a world where crunchy texture and insipid flavour meet. Beyond the loamy scent of the fresh-tilled garden croft, beneath the soothing sibilation of hydroponic irrigation, with an iceberg lettuce, there's so much more beneath the surface. For the discerning, who demand 24-carat quality, who will brook no brassica substitute. For the passionate, who love with head and heart. For the cosmopolitan consumer of both burgers and sunchoy bao. Authentic, opulent, savourless. You'll never get ahead of iceberg lettuce.
There we go. Tim, tell me that did not move you.
I'm more moved than when you shared about the ballooning story of leaving your wife and child.
I think, like...
Sorry, I just need a minute.
No, you take your time. You take your time.
Yeah.
But seriously, I had nothing. I did not have a single picture or frame of footage of lettuce. I went onto Storyblocks and I made that ad, which frankly I'm really proud of, and I keep watching back thinking, this is fantastic. This is one of the best videos I've ever made. It's because it's also beautifully shot and I can't shoot for toffee. So normally my videos don't look that good. But I'm really proud of that.
So what you're pointing out, it's not just how much Storyblocks has, but even on something on lettuce, it's the quality of what they have. It's phenomenally high quality footage of lettuces, not just
Yes.
that there's lots of it or it's there.
Yes. Yeah, it's really good. And like all through that ad, you know, when they were talking about irrigation, I was like, oh, I wonder if they've got any pictures of lettuce crops being irrigated with sprinklers. Do they? They had loads. Do they have someone sniffing a lettuce for that, for that moment about discerning? Yes, they've got someone fussily choosing lettuce from a shop. Every shot I could dream of, I found on Storyblocks. It was amazing.
There you go.
And I tell you what, I'm not the only person that had this idea. Michael from Darwin in the Northern Territory also made a Rolex-inspired lettuce ad. And Michael has his own Storyblocks account. And he went and did the same thing. He actually did the video himself. So I'm going to play you now another lettuce advertisement in Rolex style. This, again, if you're watching the video, you can enjoy Storyblocks footage. And Michael's done all the work this time. And he only used one shot the same as me. Every other shot he used in his ad is different from the shots I chose. That's how much footage there was to choose from.
Wow.
Those sacred seeds, worshipped in ancient Egypt, a symbol of sexual prowess. Its prestige and influence growing over the centuries, crisp and tender, peppery and slightly sweet. To hold a head is to hold greatness. A universal measure of success for mankind. Tossed in a salad, eaten raw, every leaf cultivated with passion, genetically modified to perfection.
Thank you very much, Michael, from the Northern Territory in Australia. And thank you, Storyblocks, for sponsoring this episode. Go to storyblocks.com/unmade for all your lettuce needs and anything else you might need. Stock footage specialists.
Next week, we hit tomato sellers. We're going industry by industry selling Storyblocks.
All right.
Week after that, potato growers.
No spoilers.
Get on board.
And now it's time for a very special edition of Spoon of the Week.
Now, Brady, you've told me not to bring a spoon this time, which is a very surprising message to receive, and I am sort of nervously waiting, because at any moment you could turn around and go, I can't believe you forgot the spoon.
No, because as you know, normally the Spoon of the Week involves Tim featuring a collector spoon from around the world, or country Victoria, from the Hine family spoon collection that he inherited from his parents. But occasionally we get submissions, and today we've had a submission from a very good podcasting friend of mine and a fellow YouTuber, CGP Grey. Not too long ago, Grey was around at my house, and I showed him a few collector spoons and our Spoon of the Week collector cards. And, you know, the guy's not made of wood. He was impressed. I could tell he was impressed. I could tell he liked a good collector spoon, and he liked what we were doing. He was impressed by the collection.
Yep.
And not long after that, he went on a trip to Hawaii. And not long after that, I received a very special package in the post with vaguely familiar handwriting and a very Hawaiian-themed box and pineapple-themed wrapping paper. And let me get it out here. And inside was a message.
And you're like,
saying,
here's another oil painting. Fantastic.
Yeah, luckily Grey didn't say that it was worth hundreds of dollars, so I didn't have to pay huge customs like I did on Tim's package. It says, Brady, for consideration in your collection from Grey. And inside all of this, in a gorgeous velvet pouch, was not one but two spoons from Hawaii that we are going to add to the Spoon of the Week collection.
And I have to tell you, Gray said he found it quite hard finding collector spoons in Hawaii, which I find hard to believe. I thought Hawaii would be like one of the world capitals of tourist tap.
Oh, yeah.
Wherever he was staying, apparently not. It took him quite a while. And these 2 spoons he sent in, I've sent you pictures of them, Tim, so you can have a closer look.
Yeah, they're beautiful, yeah.
They're very different to the typical spoon we've been featuring. They're very chunky, and a lot of these spoons are always very sort of cookie cutter type. You can imagine there's a factory that just makes the same spoon over and over again but puts a different picture on top up on the handle depending on who the client is and where the place is. But these are almost like bespoke sculptures. They're unique. One of them is a very simple plain spoon, but the stem tapers to a handle which is a pineapple, a sculpted pineapple. Very nice and very Hawaiian. And the other spoon has a much smaller bowl, scoopy bit. I think this must be used for some other purpose. And it's got kind of a curve along the stem. It's very shapely. And then it becomes quite chunky towards the handle where we have a sculpture of what I believe is a whale leaping out of the water, perhaps, with waves. It's like a work of art. And it's very curvaceous. It's almost sensual to the touch, if I may say so. It's like no other spoon I've felt before. So 2 very, very special spoons for the collection.
You've very much become a spoon man. You're really quite taken with this.
I am. So I will repackage them and send them over to you, Tim, so you can put them with the mother load in the main collection. So we've got 2 more spoons.
Oh, I look forward to holding that spoon in particular.
Make sure you give it a wash first. But I'll be sending them over. And we can add them to the collection. And thank you, CGP Grey, for sharing our love of spoons and making a contribution. We really appreciate it.
I have one problem with these spoons. I mean, they're very beautiful. They're almost too beautiful. But I'm not sure the big scoopy one is the one you've mentioned with the whale is going to fit on my spoon rack. I'm going to have to find some other display case or something to put.
You're right. It has got quite I don't know. There is a part of the stem where it thins enough that it might fit in the little slot on your spoon rack. But even if it does,
it's going to poke out higher than the others.
Yeah, and it will be really top heavy because the whale is way heavier than the bowl. So like this would topple over. You're right. This spoon is going to cause problems. He is going to cause problems.
Oh, gee. Thanks, Gray. Really appreciate your contribution.
Really throwing a spoon in the works, as they say, with that one.
Oh man, well done. Yes.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm here all week.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh,
all
lovely.
right.
I love it.
Now, this is the part of the show where we traditionally give away a few prizes to our stakeholders, our Patreon supporters, patreon.com/unmadefm. And we're going to give one of our custom-made Unmade podcast spoons to Ashworth from Massachusetts. We're going to send a Sofa Shop mixtape to Elliot from Austin. And we're going to give a handful of Spoon of the Week collector cards to Vic from Kent in the UK, Andrew from Aylesbury, also in the UK, Anne from Berkeley, David B from West Yorkshire, again in the UK, and Kieran from South Africa. So I'm saving a bit of money on postage this week, which is always nice. Congratulations.
Well, congratulations, everyone. Nice.
Thank you for supporting the show. We really appreciate it. And we always try to make sure our Patreon supporters get a few little bonus things just as a little show of thanks. But we love everyone who's listening. Everyone. Everyone? Do we love everyone who's listening? There could be some really bad people listening that we don't know about, like criminals and stuff. But we love most of the people listening.
We love criminals too. Come on.
Yeah.
Jesus loves criminals.
Yes, he did.
We're all criminals.
He did.
Right.
He did.
Yes.
But not only criminals. Like that was just like kind of he had to throw them in.
No, it's not like not like you and spoons. Like he loved lots of things.
Yeah, he had slightly more broad interest than me. But one thing I am interested in, Tim, is space. And that brings us to
Moon of the Week.
I promise it'll be a quick moon of the week this week. Maybe.
When you were up in your balloon, you were kind of closer to space. weren't you? Did it strike you at all that you were up part of the atmosphere or in a different sort of, I don't know, relationship to the Earth?
No, I wasn't that high.
No. Okay, fair enough.
I wasn't that high. Just for something a bit different this week, I decided to choose a moon in the solar system using a different criteria, and I decided to do it using alphabetical order. What natural satellite in the solar system is first in alphabetical order, if you include only moons that have names using letters and not numbers?
Right.
And that honour belongs to a moon called Actia that I'd never heard of before. I think that's how you pronounce it. I went on to one of those how do you pronounce things on YouTube sites, and they said it like this.
Actia.
Actia is not a natural satellite of one of the famous planets, like, Jupiter or Saturn. It is a natural satellite of one of these things called a Kuiper Belt planetoid or a trans-Neptunian object. These things that are out past Neptune that are sort of a semi-quasi planets, like Pluto. In fact, this one is just a little bit further out than Pluto. Just a little bit further out than Pluto is an object called Salacia, which is just basically a big rocky object. And then going around the rocky object, it has its own moon, which is another icy. It's not rocky, actually. It's more icy. And going around it is its own little mini moon, and that is what Actia is. It's an icy object going around another icy object out further away than Pluto.
Right.
It's about 300 kilometers across, so very small, and that makes it about 1/3 the diameter of Salacia itself. So the two are so close in size that you could almost consider them to be like twins rather than one's a moon of the other. Salacia is a bit bigger, so Actia gets moon status. Actia, it takes about 5.5 days to do a lap, an orbit of Salacia. It's about 5,500 kilometers from Salacia. It was discovered using the Hubble Space Telescope in 2006, and Salacia is named after the goddess of salt water, who was the wife of Neptune, and Actia itself is named after something called a Nereid, or like a sea nymph from mythology. So, whatever. It's named after some mythological character of the sea. That's about all you really need to know. But I'm sure you want to see a picture and prepare for incredible levels of disappointment.
It's not just everything that we need to know. I feel like it's everything there is to know.
Pretty much it is. You're right.
Is there any more data that
any more data would be really, really boring. So that picture I'm sending you is actually Salacia is the main object, which basically looks like just a white smudge, and it looks like there's a little pimple on it. That little pimple on the left is the moon, Actia.
So for those who aren't able to look at this visually, I could describe this as a photograph of our moon with one of the early iPhones travelling in a car at speed. Is that a fair description?
I think you're bigging it up a little bit too much myself, but all right. All right. There you go. Short and sweet, moon of the week. Because what people really want to hear, Tim, is your idea for a podcast today.
Well, that's right. Actually, yes. Very good. All right. Now, just give me a few minutes.
To come up with an idea.
Got one. Right, here we go. I do have an idea for a podcast. My idea is called Mimic. And this is a podcast about people who spend their life impersonating other people. So this week I looked in my diary and realised I'd forgotten that I had bought a ticket to a concert for a cover band called the Smythes later in the week, who are a cover band for very famous, well, I won't say very famous, people may not have heard of it. Anyway, another band, a band from the 80s called the Smiths, whose lead singer Morrissey styles his hair a bit like mine. And he's
walks into the hairdresser with a picture of you and says, I want to look like this guy. I'm sure people have heard of the Smiths.
That's right. And they're such a good cover band that I was going back to see them again for the second time. But they live their life as a cover band and they spend their entire vocation trying to be someone else. But there was something, it reminded me of someone else in the paper. Oh, no, it wasn't the paper. They just, I don't know, like Facebook coughed up into my stream this week of a guy that looks and impersonates Bono from U2. And so I clicked on and read the story about him because it was a little bit about his life looking like Bono. And he was talking about the fact that he was aware very early on, because everyone would tell him that he looked like the rock star Bono, but he didn't really think he did, because you kind of think you look like yourself. And he wasn't.
Well, I'm sure he looks like himself too, man.
Sort of revel up. No, he does look like himself. But it's a bit like, with twins, from someone who's not part of the family, they look like twins. But of course, people in the family, all they see is the different people and their personalities. But so he sort of couldn't see it, but other people could see it all the time. And then finally, it was, he saw it kind of later in life and thought, hang on, there's money to be made here. And so kind of reluctantly, he says, gave himself over to being Bono and realised that he could live his life dressing up as Bono. But he showed photos of when he was young and when Bono was young and how much he looked. And I just think that's really interesting that when they choose to live their life mimicking someone else, like that's a strange way. Most of the message of modern life is you've got to be yourself and be true to yourself. Yeah. And it's really fascinating that there are some people who spend their entire life trying to be another specific person.
You're right, because there are people who are famous as impersonators. There are a few of them in the UK, people like Rory Bremner and stuff like that. And that, they're quite celebrated. If you can impersonate 50 different people, you're a bit of a legend of an entertainer. But if you just do one person, there's almost a sort of a patheticness to it, isn't there? Yeah. Some of those cover bands, though, are big business. There's an Australian band that impersonates Pink Floyd. They're called the Australian Pink Floyd. And they put on massive concerts, huge, as big as Pink Floyd concerts.
That's a little bit different, isn't it? Because people want to hear the live Pink Floyd music and Pink Floyd aren't going to tour again. So that's why I want to see the Smiths. But there's also the mannerisms and looking like them. To be clear, I do want to see the Smiths, and if they reform, that would be fantastic. Not so fantastic for the Smythes, though, who suddenly are out of business.
All right, before we come back to your idea, Tim, because I love your idea, and I've got some more questions, and I've got an idea of my own that you've put into my head already. But if right now someone said to you, you have to quit your job and become an impersonator of one person for the rest of your life. You have no choice. It's the only way you can make money to support your family from now on. Who do you become? Who's your go-to person? What do you think? How do you think you could forge out a niche?
So there has to be someone famous, otherwise no one will care. And it has to be an entertainer because you have to go and entertain, I guess, to some degree.
There is that. It can't just be someone you have a passing resemblance to because you can't necessarily make money from it. I have to say, for the record, Tim is an excellent impersonator. I always think you're very good at mimicking people and stuff like that.
Oh, there are ones that I'd like to. It would be fun to go and be the lead singer, like Morrissey or like Bono or Nick Cave or someone like that. That would be a fun thing to do. And I probably know it well enough to sort of get into their mannerisms because I've kind of, done it driving along in my car all these years.
You don't have to look that much like the person too. If you can do their mannerisms and do their sound, you can start doing things to your hair and stuff to vaguely look like them. And dress like them. You can get away with not looking too much like them. If you're a good enough mimic.
Yeah, that's true.
I can see you doing a Nick Cave.
Oh, yeah, well, yeah. I only preach because I can't be Nick Cave. That's what I kind of do a Nick Cave every week.
Yeah.
One of my daughters said the other day, because Nick Cave's touring, so I bought tickets for both nights of his show in Adelaide in a few months' time. And I bought it for one of my daughters, who I'm trying to coax to go along. And then the other one, the younger one, she looked at me across the table at dinner and she said, "Dad, I find Nick Cave absolutely terrifying." There are people that just look like people. I remember being at a party from a school friend of ours years and years ago, and one of her cousins just looks so much like Tom Cruise. The teeth and the eyes and the nose. And we said it, and I said to her, "It looks so much like Tom Cruise." And we're all talking about this guy. And she goes, "Yeah, and he knows it too." He sort of...
Remember that episode, in the Christmas episode of The British Office, the talent agent is talking about people he's got on his books, and he's got a guy on his books who is an impersonator of Michael Douglas, and they say, "What does he do?" He just goes along to parties and stands there as someone who looks a bit like Michael Douglas. What do you do if you look like Michael Douglas? What can you do?
Just cool to have someone that kind of looks like Michael Douglas at his party.
I guess you could do lines from Wall Street or something maybe, but he just looks like him.
I love that he admits that he actually doesn't look heaps like him. So I'm looking for a Catherine Zeta-Jones to sort of be with him so it sort of looks a bit more authentic. When I was looking at this idea just before, I thought, I wonder if there's any of that kind of thing around Adelaide. And there is. And I've looked up a website with celebrity impersonator kind of people on Adelaide. Let me promise you, I look more like everyone these people are trying to be than anyone.
Really? Let's have a look at some of these lookalikes. Who have you got?
This website is a great lookalike for a late 90s bad website. Like it's doing a fantastic impersonation of a bad.
All right, we're looking at this talent website that's got these impersonators. Who have we got? Oh yeah, they've got an Ali G Borat guy, Charlie Chaplin.
Yeah,
I mean, these are impersonators that so they've got someone who dresses up as Dorothy from The Wizard of Oz. I mean,
yeah. See, that's not really an impersonator. I mean, and they've got an Elvis. I mean, Elvis is in some ways he's the king of impersonations.
They've got Kiss, but anyone looks like Kiss if they wear all the Kiss makeup.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah,
this one who is the Madonna. I mean, I look more like Madonna than this person.
There's a Batman and Robin, but the Batman's a woman.
That's Batgirl.
Oh yeah, no, that's fair enough.
Robbie Williams, Tina Turner. Oh dear. Yeah.
Why is Robin hanging out with Batgirl?
That can happen. They can hang out. And can I just say, if you're a Spice Girls impersonator, you have to do more than just wear a Union Jack dress. That's not enough.
Yeah.
I'll tell you what I would like to see in a podcast with your idea.
Yeah.
I would love to have the impersonators or the lookalikes come on the show, but I'd also like the person they impersonate or look like to be on the show too as a special guest. Like today we've got, Jim, who's the Bono impersonator, and Bono. Let the two talk. Compare notes.
Yeah.
Do you think I look like you? Do we have anything else in common? How do you feel about being impersonated? What's it like finally meeting the person? I'd be really interesting when lookalikes and the real person come face to face.
That is a great idea. If you could pull that off, that would be fantastic. Yeah, I wonder if the person would be excited to be with the genuine article, right? Or if they would be a bit embarrassed, or a bit like, oh, this is interesting. If ever you're riding the coattails of someone.
And making money off them, yeah.
But it's also a tribute too, it's like you're successful enough to have impersonators.
Yeah. I don't think there are any Tim Hine impersonators out there yet, but give it time.
Not yet.
Give it time. Other than Morrissey, of course. A few years ago, you remember when Leicester City, the soccer team, won the Premier League? It was a real big upset. They weren't expected to win it. And one of the reasons they won it was their striker, their forward player, had a really great season. A guy called Jamie Vardy scored a whole bunch of goals. And there was this guy doing the rounds who looked like him. So he became this Jamie Vardy lookalike who was just appearing all the time at things because everyone was talking about Jamie Vardy. And when they won the league, there were all these celebrations happening. And the team all got on a bus. I think they were going to like a restaurant to have a big celebration party after winning the league. And this Jamie Vardy impersonator was sort of standing outside in the crowd looking at the bus as it was about to leave the stadium and go off to dinner. And all the players were, feeling a bit cheeky and they were like, come on the bus with us. And they let this guy on the bus and he sat next to Jamie Vardy on the bus and they took all these pictures of them together. And he did look like him.
That's cool.
But you could tell Jamie Vardy was going along with it, but he wasn't that happy about it. You could tell he didn't like it. Because this guy was he looked like him, but he was also... Jamie Vardy's not a great looking guy, but this guy was uglier than Jamie Vardy and had worse teeth and he looked like a bit of a mess, but yeah, he still looked like Jamie Vardy. So I don't think Jamie Vardy liked the idea that this guy that he considered to be unattractive was considered to look just like him. So he kind of went along with the pictures, but it felt begrudging.
There was a photo that went through Twitter this week of a baby that looked like Woody Harrelson, and Woody Harrelson had sort of given it the thumbs up. I love that idea. You just look at it and go, yeah, that's
Woody Harrelson does look a bit awesome. Like a baby.
Yeah, he does. Yeah, well, the bald head. I think this is an interesting idea. People who live their life vicariously, kind of, in a way. They sort of have to follow someone and they live into it. But there's also those people who just happen to look like someone and they're not trying to make money out of it. They're not an impersonator. They just get it everywhere they go. Someone points it out to them how much they look like someone.
I get that with Ewan McGregor all the time.
Do you? Yeah, I can see it. Yep. Did you know that Ewan McGregor looks so cool that his advertising worked on me, right? So I don't...
Yeah.
I chose my aftershave based on a cool picture of Ewan McGregor, just out and out. I didn't wear aftershave for years and years and years.
Yeah.
And I did when I was young. I had Hugo Boss and that kind of stuff. But I didn't want to wear it anymore. And when people wear aftershave, it's usually too strong and annoying. So I never wore it for years and years and years. And then I saw a picture of Ewan McGregor in a magazine, a fashion magazine. Like, and he looked all cool. You know how he goes on these trips, like, he looks rugged and he's up in the mountains and stuff. And I remember thinking, how cool does he look? Is that Brady Harron? That's what I thought. I was like, I know.
Yeah.
It's like,
he is my most common, I don't think I look like him, but he is my most common lookalike I get these days, like, yeah, that I'm willing to admit to.
You do have an Obi-Wan Kenobi kind of aura about you, I do agree.
I think so.
I looked at the ad and then I saw that it was an ad for aftershave and I made a mental note, like, I'm going to try that aftershave. And it was entirely because it was such a cool picture, like I was just totally marketed to.
You couldn't smell him, you didn't know what he smelt like or anything.
On the contrary, he looked like he looks sweaty, you know what I mean? Like he was up rugged in the mountain. It's not a voluntary thing. Just in your mind, you suddenly go, oh, I'm going to try that aftershave. So I did try the aftershave, Adventure by Davidoff, and I loved it. And I just bought it, and I've been wearing it for about 10 years now. And it was it.
Do you ever look at my face and think, I want to buy stuff? Like, I want to buy what Brady's wearing?
No, especially not at the moment. You're sitting there with your shirt off.
It's very hot where I am, so I'm podcasting shirtless. Tim is doing well to not comment. I love your mimic podcast idea, Tim. Well done. There's very fertile ground. There could be a fantastic show. Lookalikes, mimics, get them on, sample their work. If possible, get them to meet the person they impersonate. How do they get to where they are? Where do they see their future? One last comment I will make, though, is I am surprised that a music snob and purist like you goes and sees cover bands.
I know. I felt dirty doing it. And the only way I got around it, and it was with a friend from church that I know, and he said, like, they're really great. And we went along and we said to each other, okay, we're doing this as kind of an ironic thing, like a fun, like, ha ha, we're going. And then fair play, halfway through, we're like, these guys are good. And they didn't write the songs, right? So it's not like we're saying, wow, what a great band, but they did a good job and it was a fun night. But there is a little bit of me that felt a bit dirty about it, that's for sure. Yeah.
How deep do they go? They don't like pretend to be the people and they'll say, hey, I'm Morrissey. Do they acknowledge that, you know, hey, I'm glad you're liking the songs. Here's a shout out to the Smiths that wrote all this stuff. They're great, sort of thing.
I don't remember them talking about the Smiths as existing. Like, they don't say, hey, we're all here tonight because we love the Smiths and let's pay tribute. You know, so they don't do that because they don't want to break the spell. But neither is it pantomime, you know, where they're sort of like, you know, good evening, I'm Morrissey, and, you know, remember, don't eat meat, you know. They don't go that far either. But he does dress and look and play like it. So it's sort of an unspoken kind of thing.
Okay.
You'd like to think there was a bit of a wink in it, you know, rather than, I don't know, the Elvis impersonator who takes it all a little bit too seriously and lives as Elvis or goes into it. That would be my last comment. I'd be interested to know, like, is there ever part of them that forgets they're themselves, you know, like they doesn't have a healthy self-image, but sort of, you know what I mean, like plays into it a little bit too strongly and crosses a line in their mind where they're vicariously, when no one's watching, how much do they live into the character they are? That would be a bit of a worry.
So to finish the show, unless Tim's forgotten secret words from his daughters again.
Anyway. Yes, keep talking.
All right.
Oh, jeez. I'm terrible. I need to go back to school. Oh.
Okay. Nice work. Is that the only one you need to get in?
And they need an apricot.
Okay. Okay. You need to go to apricot school.
Very good.
All right. I promised a few more Rolex-style advertisements promoting lettuce from civilians. So here we go. Here is one from Max. Take it away, Max.
There is a place where dreams are grown, where ideas are nourished and prosperity fertilized. For more than 4,000 years, these harrowed grounds have seen the march of civilization, driven by its crops. Year after year, it has brought life to the people of this fair planet, and for many more, it will remain. Which is why we, at Rolex, have been supporting these pastures for so long. Because, though on its face it may look simple, peel away the layers, and you will find something truly ahead of its time. Though history has watched as many have stood as icebergs in its path, it, like humanity, has grown from a seed, so that today, behind every let it go, let it be, and let me, there is a let us.
Okay, very good. Thank you very much. And now here we have Stefan.
This is not just a piece of nature. Healthy, nutritious, rising from the richest soil like a dream of Gaia. It harnesses the power of the sun and the strength of the earth. Majesty unfolds. Its uses are multitude. Just a single piece is a crowning jewel, according to KFC burger eaters from Australia.
Thank you very much, Stefan. And Amelia only wrote her script, so I'm going to get a professional media person who happens to live in my house to deliver it for her, and the music will be courtesy of Storyblocks.
This is not just a vegetable, it's a container, the container of life. As the first bacteria came from the primordial soup of water and nutrients, it is water held in a shell of nutrients. It is how far life has come, and more. A collection of cells with identical DNA, yet different expressions coming together to sustain a similarly complex organism. That organism, which has cracked the very code of life and gone so far as to alter it, finds this a worthy venture. Like all else, its components are simple, but the little bit that is not makes it magnificent. Lettuce.
And last but not least, we have Caden, who I don't think quite understood the whole indirect, grandiose nature of Rolex ads, but he took the trouble to send something in, so take it away, Caden.
Eat lettuce because it's cool, and you should eat lettuce, and it's crunchy and tasty on cheeseburgers and KFC burgers. Eat lettuce.
And that's it for now. That's it for the episode.
Have you heard from Rolex? I wouldn't want to be caught up in any kind of a watch us for comments kind of situation. Actually, I would. I would like to get caught up.
I think they've been coy. They're playing hard to get on the sponsorship front. But I think once they realise my striking resemblance to Ewan McGregor and your susceptibility to advertising, they might get in touch. But for now, we remain without an official watch partner.
Well, they get one more week, and then we're moving on to Omega. Who? That's right.
We'll be on Casio before the year is out.
That's right. That's right. Nice.